Hello dear ladies and gentlemen, today I am going to discuss with you diagnostic technique used in pathology. So in the pathology, the following techniques are used to diagnose a disease. In this, histopathology, cytopathology, hematopathology, immunohistochemistry, microbiological examination, biochemical examination, cytogenetics, molecular technique, autopsy. Now we are coming to discuss histopathological techniques. So histopathological examination study tissue under the microscope. What is microscope? Microscope is an instrument which are used for seeing a tiny object which cannot be seen through naked eye. So during this study, the pathologists look for abnormal structure in the tissue. Tissues for histopathological examination are obtained by biopsy. Biopsy is a tissue sample from a living person to identify the disease. Biopsy can be either incisional or excisional. Once the tissue is removed from the patient, it has to be immediately fixed by putting it into adequate amount of 10% formaldehyde, 10% formalin before sending it to the pathologist. So now we are coming to discuss the purpose of fixation. So in this, to prevent autolysis and bacterial decomposition and putrefaction, to coagulate the tissue to prevent loss of easily diffusible substances, to fortify the tissue against the deleterious effect of the various stages in the preparation of sections and tissue processing, to leave the tissue in a condition which facilitates differential staining with dyes and other reagents. Once the tissue arrives at the pathology department, the pathologist will examine it microscopically, i.e. naked eye examination of the tissue. Then the tissue is processed to make it ready for microscopic examination. The whole purpose of the tissue processing is to prepare a very thin tissue, i.e. 5 to 7 micrometer or 1 cell thick tissue, which can be clearly seen under the microscope. The tissue is processed by putting it into different chemical. It is then impregnated, embedded in paraffin section, cut into thin slices, and is finally stained. The stain can be hematoxylin, usine stain, or special stain such as PAS, immunohistochemistry, etc. The hematoxylin usine stain is usually abbreviated as H&E stain. The H&E stain is routinely used. It gives the nucleus a blue color and the cytoplasm and the extracellular matrix a pinkish color. Then the pathologist will look for abnormal structure in the tissue, and based on the abnormal morphology, she will make the diagnosis. Histopathology is used the gold standard for pathologic diagnosis. So now we are coming to discuss cytopathologic techniques. So cytopathology is the study of a cell from various body sites to determine the cause of or nature of disease. So now we are coming to discuss application of cytopathology. The main application of cytology include the following. So in this, screening for the early detection of asymptomatic cancer, for example, the examination of scraping from cervix for early detection and prevention of cervical cancer, diagnosis of symptomatic cancer. Cytopathology may be used alone or in conjunction with other modalities to diagnose tumor revealed by physical or radiological examination. It can be used in the diagnosis of cysts, inflammatory condition, and infection of various organs. So we are coming to discuss surveillance of patient treated for cancer. For some type of cancer, cytology is the most feasible method of surveillance to detect recurrence. The best example is periodic urine cytology to monitor the recurrence of cancer of the urinary tract. Now we are coming to discuss advantages of cytologic examination. Compared to histopathologic technique, it is cheap, take less time, and need no anesthesia to take specimen. Therefore, it is appropriate for developing countries with limited resources like Ethiopia. In addition, it is complementary to the histopathological examination. Now we are coming to discuss cytopathologic method. So in cytopathologic method, there are different techniques which are used. So in this fine needle aspiration cytology, in fine needle aspiration cytology, cells are obtained by aspirating the diseased organ using a very thin needle under negative pressure. Virtually any organ or tissue can be sampled by fine needle aspiration. The aspirated cells are then stained and are studied under the microscope. Superficial organ, e.g. thyroid, breast, lymph node, skin and soft tissue can be easily aspirated. Deep organs such as the lungs, mediastinum, liver, pancreas, kidney, adrenal gland and retroperitoneum are aspirated with guidance by fluoroscopy and ultrasound or CT scan. Fine needle aspiration cytology is cheap, fast and accurate in diagnosing many diseases. So now we are coming to discuss speculative cytology. So in speculative cytology, refer to the examination of cells that are shed spontaneously into body fluid or secretion. Example include sputum, cerebrospinal fluid, urine, effusion in body cavities, pleura, pericardium, peritoneum, nipple discharge and vaginal discharge. So now we are coming to discuss abrasive cytology. So in abrasive cytology, refer to method by which cells are dislodged by various tools from body surface, skin, mucous membrane and serous membrane, e.g. preparation of cervical smear with a spatula or small brush to detect cancer of the uterine cervix at early stages. Such cervical smear are called Pap smear, can significantly reduce the mortality from cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is the most common cancer in Ethiopian women. In which women cervical cancer is most common? So in Ethiopian women, cervical cancer is most common. So now we are coming to discuss hematological examination. This is a method by which abnormalities of cell of blood and their precursor in the bone marrow are investigated to diagnose the different kind of anemia and leukemia. What is hematological examination? So hematological examination is a method by which abnormalities of the cell of the blood and their precursor in the bone marrow are investigated to diagnose the different kind of anemia and leukemia. So now we are coming to discuss immunohistochemistry. So immunohistochemistry is a method used to detect a specific antigen in the tissue in order to identify the type of diseases. So in microbiological examination, this is a method by which body fluid, exercise, tissue, etc. are examined by microscopical culture and serological techniques to identify microorganisms responsible for many diseases. So in biochemical examination, this is a method by which the metabolic disturbance of a disease are investigated by an ESI of various normal and abnormal compound in the blood, urine. So in clinical genetics, cytogenetics, this is a chromosome. This is a method in which inherited chromosomal abnormalities in the germ cell are acquired chromosomal abnormalities in somatic cell are investigated using the techniques of molecular biology. So in molecular techniques, different molecular techniques such as fluorescence, in situ hybridization, southern blot, etc. can be used to detect genetic diseases. So in autopsy is examination of a deed to identify the cause of death. This can be forensic or clinical purpose. The relatively importance of each of the above disciplines to or understanding of the disease varies for our different types of disease. For example, in diabetes mellitus, biochemical investigation provide the best mean of diagnosis and is of the greatest value in the control of disease, whereas in the diagnosis of tumor, FNAC and histopathology contribute much. However, for most diseases, diagnosis is based on the condition of pathological investigation. So now we are coming to discuss the causes of disease. Disease can be caused by either environmental factor, genetic factor, or a combination of the two, environmental factor and physical and genetic factor. So environmental causes of a disease are many and are classified into physical agent, chemical, nutritional deficiencies or excesses, infections or infestation, immunological factor, psychogenic factor. So in physical agent, these include trauma, radiation, extreme of temperature and electric power. These agents apply excess physical energy in any form to the body. So now we are coming to discuss chemicals. With the use of or increasing number of chemical agents such as drugs in industrial process and at home, chemically induced injury has become very common. Their effect vary. Some act in a general manner. For example, cyanide is toxic to all cells. Other act locally at the site of application. For example, strong acid and caustics. Another group exhibit a predilection for certain organ. For example, the effect of paracetamol and alcohol on liver. Many toxic chemicals are metabolized in liver and excreted in kidney. As a result, these organs are susceptible to chemical injury. So now we are coming to discuss nutritional deficiencies and excesses. So in nutritional deficiencies, many may arise as a result of poor supply, interference with absorption, inefficient transport within the body, or defective utilization. It may take the form of deficiencies either of major classes of food, usually protein and energy, or vitamins or elements essential for specific metabolic process, e.g. iron for hemoglobin production. Often the deficiencies are multiple and complex. On the other hand, dietary excess play an important role in diseases. In Western countries, obesity has become increasingly common with its attendant danger of type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure and heart diseases. So we are coming to discuss infection and infestation. Viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa and metazoa all cause diseases. All these are the factors that cause diseases in humans. They may do so by causing cell destruction directly as in the virus infection. For example, poliomyelitis or protozoan infection. For example, malaria. However, in other, the damage is done by toxin elaborated by the infecting agent. Hence, in the diphtheria and tetanus-like channel, they may have a general effect or they may show a predilection for certain tissue. Immunological factor. The immune process is essential for protection against microorganisms and parasites. However, the immune system can be abnormal, which can lead to diseases. The abnormalities of the immune system include hypertensive reaction. This is aggregated immune response to an antigen. For example, bronchial asthma can occur due to exaggerated immune response to the harmless pollen. Immunodeficiency. This is due to deficiency of the component of the immune system which lead to increased susceptibility to different disease. An example is AIDS. Autoimmunity. This is an abnormal immune reaction against the self-antigen of the host. Therefore, autoimmunity is a hypersensitivity reaction against the self-antigen. For example, type 1 diabetes mellitus is caused by autoimmune destruction of the beta cell of the isolate of Langerhans of the pancreas. So, psychogenic factor, the mental stress imposed by condition of life, particularly in technology advanced communities, are probably contributory factor in some group of disease. So, in genetic factors, there are hereditary factors that are inherited genetically from parents. Detailed discussion will be done on the topics in the subsequent chapter. So, course of a disease. The course of a disease is shown with a simplified diagram as follows: exposure, biological onset, clinical onset, permanent damage, death. So, latency period. The course of a disease in the absence of any intervention is called the natural history of a disease. The different stages in the natural history of a disease include exposure to various risk factor, causative agent, latency period between exposure and biological onset of a disease. Biological onset of a disease, this marks the initiation of a disease process. However, without or any sign or symptom following biological onset of a disease, it may remain asymptomatic of subclinical, i.e. without clinical manifestation, are may lead to overt clinical disease. Incubation period refer to variable period of time without any obvious sign or symptom from the time of exposure. The clinical onset of a disease with the sign and symptom of a disease become apparent. The expression of a disease may be variable in severity or in terms of range of manifestation. The onset of permanent damage and death. Natural recovery, i.e. recovery without any intervention, can occur at any stage in the progression of a disease. Outcome and consequence of a disease following clinical onset. Disease may follow any of the following trend. Resolution can occur leaving no sequelae. The disease can settle down by sequelae or left. It may result in death. So in clinical and biological death, clinical death is the reversible transmission between life and biological death. Clinical death defined as the period of respiratory, circulatory and brain arrest during with initiation and recursion can lead to recovery. Clinical death begin with either the last agonal inhalation or the last cardiac contraction, sign indicating clinical death are the patient is without pulse or blood pressure and is completely unresponsive to the most painful stimulus. The pupils are widely dilated. Some reflex reaction to the external stimulation are prevented. For example, during incubation, the respiration may be restored in response to stimulation of the receptor of the superior laryngeal nerve. The nucleus of which is located in the medulla oblongata near the respiratory center. Recovery can occur with resuscitation. Biological death. So in biological death, sure sign of death which set in after clinical death is in irreversible state of cellular destruction. It manifests with irreversible cessation of circulatory and respiratory function or irreversible cessation of all function of the entire brain including brain system. However, one should notice that there are internationally accepted criteria to diagnose biological death. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, if you like my presentation, so please subscribe and